In every sport throughout history, there will come a time that someone just comes along and does it completely different. Whether that's Dick Fosbury with the Fosbury flop, Jan Boklov with the V-style, or Rodney Mullen with pretty much all the skateboarding tricks. But in the sport of parkour, there has been one athlete that to me has always stood out as one of the most innovative athletes on the planet, and that is Joe Marks.
Oh, yeah, 7! Oh.
I think it's pretty safe to say that Marks is one of the most creative freerunners in the game. I don't think I'm going to catch any heat for that because I think it is pretty well known. But in this video, I'm really curious to find out how autism helped to shape Marks into the athlete he is today. We've just arrived in Wandsworth. Let's try and find Joe.
It's the man of the hour.
Yes,
What are you doing right now?
well, I get heat stroke quite easily, so I'm making kind of, I don't know, an opposite wetsuit. Free air conditioning.
Joe grew up 26 years ago in Isleworth. He grew up in a poor family who were not very well off at all, and his parents very quickly realised that something was different about Joe.
I was diagnosed at 5. My parents, I think they had enough. They were like, why is he like this? But my dad actually got diagnosed the same day that I did.
Yeah.
And his whole life he didn't know he had autism at 35 on the
Right.
same day. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Bloody hell. Doing the cartwheel, but my hands go in here, so we're going over this wall, hands in the middle, over that wall.
I think that's going. Oh, that's sick.
I might have to just do it. I don't even know what I'm worried about. Sendy time?
Sandy! Oi!
Better than the last one I did.
You look like you could go into like side flip or something.
I will, yeah.
Ooh, baby!
So when you go out training with people, there's typically a way things are done. Like you go out and you jump to your feet and you like do Kong prees and stuff. I wouldn't approach a spot and think, oh, that's a dive cartwheel. It's just not something anyone would see, but it's interesting.
Now he's in the shade, hiding away from his problems.
Marks is definitely a high-functioning person with autism. So autism isn't considered like an illness or a disease. Effectively, a person who has autism, their brain functions in a different way to people who don't. Typically, an autistic person will find it hard to communicate and interact with other people. They might find it hard to understand how people think and how they feel about things. And on top of this, they might find things like bright lights or loud noises sort of overwhelming. It will make them feel stressed out and uncomfortable. There's a few others on there, but you kind of get the picture.
Well, I don't look at you in the eyes much. That's something that people can notice. Growing up, I would have these moments we would call at home unwell, where I just go into this weird state of everything just makes me jumpy. Everything feels like anxious. I'm observing way too much than I should be. So if it happens still if I'm in a big crowd. Autistic people, their senses are a bit more, they're taking in too much. So it overloads the system, and when I would feel unwell, it would just keep coming in, and I'll be listening to other people's conversations while I'm talking to someone else. It'll freak me out, and I would just go into this horrible state where like I just don't want to be anywhere near anyone. When I go anywhere with a crowd, I still get it. I have to be careful.
But I've always found it really interesting how many of some of the greatest minds on Earth have been autistic. There's a guy called Albert Einstein. I don't know if you've heard of him. Bill Gates, Tim Burton, Nikola Tesla. Now, obviously, we haven't known about autism for that long, so some of those people we don't know for fact, but there's good recorded evidence to say they might have been. But I've always wondered if autism has been, in part, some of the reason why Joe Marks is such a creative athlete. I just wanted to add in real quick that over on our Discord, we've just set up a board that's specifically all about mental health. It was put together by today's video sponsor, which is Vite Ramen. Vite Ramen, as many of you guys will know, has been a long-time sponsor of this channel with their super tasty and nutritious ramen noodle packs. Now, this pack in particular is the Szechuan Chili Edition, which my tongue cannot handle. But for example, this pack contains 25% of your daily values of your essential vitamins and minerals. As well, there's 26 grams of complete protein in there. But being honest, nutrition aside, the main reason that I've worked with them for so long is because they're really, really tasty and super quick to make. They take like 3 minutes. So you can massively help support the channel by using the link below. And to get 10% off, use the code JimmyTheGiantUK. Anyway, back to the video.
It's pushed me in the direction to do different styles in parkour. It's motivated me in different ways than it would other athletes. Fundamentally, being creative is just putting two ideas together and I think autistic people might be good at putting ideas together. You can look at, I don't know, autistic people that are famous. They're people that have invented things.
Now, to explain Joe's parkour style is not an easy thing to do. It's evolved a lot over the years, but definitely now in 2021, you see him doing a lot of very well-connected, poppy, springy, creatively pieced together lines. But what really stands out is how he can get very fixated on one move in particular. Now, Joe calls these drives.
Yep.
I get into these, which I've come to understand, I call them drives, where I get obsessed with something for, it can be a week, it can be months, it can be years, but I get obsessed with one thing, and I just put all my motivation into that, and while I'm in that drive, I have unlimited motivation for that one thing. Let's say it's for the programs that I did, I would just have unlimited. I would wake up, I would go to Cafe Nero and I would sit on my laptop all day. I wouldn't eat, just pure flow state, and you wouldn't be able to interrupt me. If I'm doing that thing that I'm obsessed with, I won't give you any attention. It's horrible for Julia sometimes, my girlfriend. If I'm sitting at home or when I was doing my programs or something, I would just sit there and she tries to talk to me and it's just like yeah, oh yeah.
A drive for Joe is where he'll come across a new thing. This could literally be anything. It might be lashaying off a pole, or it could be learning how to draw. Joe will enter these insanely deep flow states where the whole world around him doesn't matter, but the thing he is now interested in. Outside of parkour, he has had loads of these. For instance, he made an e-bike.
This is my baby.
It's your baby.
This is a Mark's Mark II. Well, if you have all the parts, you can make it in like 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah, watch a lot of YouTube videos. It goes about 30, 35.
Raw, what?
You'll see a wheel spin.
These random drives can kind of come out of nowhere. Something will just stand out to Joe and that will become his entire life. And a drive can last anywhere between a week, a month, years. Usually the interest won't last forever. But this part of Joe's personality has been super interesting to see in his parkour. Joe will have drives over parkour moves. So let's try and think of some of the ones he's had. So firstly, there's the pole lache, which is a ridiculously weird move. Like, I don't understand the mechanics of it. My favorite clip of him doing this ever was the Kong into pole lache. He then had a time where he was learning back fall downs, which is basically breaking a back fall into a backflip and then doing a full twist. There are honestly too many of these moves to mention, but one that really stands out that's quite recent is round-offs and cartwheels. This simple, pretty underwhelming move became this absolute fascination. Joe would find new places, new situations to try round-offs in, and it got pretty ridiculous. Yeah. Now, you might remember I made a video about monkey style. In my video, I very much accredited Orlando as kind of the main innovator for monkey style. But in hindsight, I totally overlooked how Marks impacted monkey style. And a lot of that was to do with the splat variation. So Marks is an absolute king of doing splat backs. He has loads of different variations and you see him use them quite a lot. An interesting thing you'll notice is this trick that Joe is working on right now. Yeah.
Oh, yes!
And that is the round-off splat back, or something like that. I'm not trying to be the person to name it, but effectively Marks is doing this ridiculous move where he does a round-off, splats against the wall, and then pings onto another one. The first one he did, which only came out a few weeks ago on his Instagram, pretty much blew away the entire parkour community. And it's so cool to see Marks get really hyper-focused on a new thing.
I had an idea as soon as I got here.
Oi, what are you thinking?
Round off on the wall and then bounce back to that block. So I'll do this. I'm going to do the round off there to show you.
Okay. Oh!
But I want to dive onto it and then palm spin that.
I think that's his thing at the moment, is round-off splat prees. So hopefully we're going to see him work on this one here. Maybe get it. We'll find out.
Oh!
That was so nice. Well, the one the other day where I did round off bounce back, I was just like doing it as a joke.
Yeah.
I was with Arthur. I was like, oh, imagine if I round off and bounce off like that. And we were like laughing about it. And every time we got further, I was like, it's becoming a thing.
Yeah. Oh. Yes, man.
It's cool seeing like Joe come up with these lines, especially with the stuff that Joe does. You don't really see this stuff, so it's really interesting to watch in person. I like it a lot.
Sorry.
Woo-hoo-hoo, let's go, baby!
That's the one.
That was sick, man. Well done.
Main spot now.
Sick. Let's get it. Woo!
Away from the noise and the sun.
When I was there filming with him, this was probably the second one of these he had done. He'll now be on the lookout for new situations to try this new move in. And I can tell you, as a long-time Joe Marks fan, you will not be able to predict where it might end up. And I feel like autism and Joe's unique way of thinking about things is part of the reason why he gets so creative. This super focus is like a deep flow state. He will become obsessed with this new thing he finds interesting. And whereas most people will try this new thing, they'll enjoy it, but then they might go back to what they were doing or do something else, Joe will very often be utterly fascinated by this new thing, and he'll want to try it in so many different situations. And this will lead him to completely progressing these new moves. But speaking to Joe, I don't think it's just the fact that he gets obsessively deep into things that has led him to be the innovator that he is. I actually think there is something else.
I gravitated towards doing these new moves because I wanted to contribute to the sport in a way that could give me some value to myself that I couldn't find anywhere else in my life. Because of autism making it hard for me in every other part of my life, I had this opportunity all of a sudden where I could be valued by a community, a sport, and I wanted to be valued somewhere because I wasn't very good anywhere else in my life. I'm not good in school, I didn't have many friends.
As we know about autism, it affects communication and the understanding of how other people feel. Throughout Joe's life growing up, he struggled. He said he didn't have many friends growing up. And that thing that is deeper than just being able to be obsessed with something is Joe's desire to fit in and add to the sport of parkour. Of all the things that Joe had tried in his life, nothing really fit like parkour did. For the first time, Joe felt part of something and useful. He was good at it. And when I say good, he was incredible at it. And if you can imagine having never felt something quite like that before, this filled Joe with this motivation to add to the sport, to make a name for himself.
I didn't really have many friends outside of parkour, so I could fit in somewhere for once. And you don't really have to socialise much in parkour. Sometimes you don't even speak to the other person. They do a challenge and you're like, you kind of mime, you're like, or you just get in front of them, you're like, I'm going to do it as well.
Yeah. Have you ever met any other people that are autistic in parkour?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, if you're in the community, you know of the few. Some don't say that they have autism, but I think we all know a little bit that they're probably on the spectrum. I think they're quite accepted. Sometimes people don't get it, they don't see it. Those people get kind of pushed away and people are, oh, they're a bit weird.
Sure.
Then once you realise maybe they've got autism, maybe they're struggling with something else, then they seem to always be accepted after that.
I think the thing I notice the most with him is that when he's got a drive, whether it be an idea, like he wants it done immediately, and like whether it's something to do with a business, because he's always got ideas for products and stuff. So sometimes we'll have things where he'll be like, can we get this done? Can we get this done? Can we get, and I have to be like, just like slow down. Brakes. But he's also very aware of that. And I think sometimes it's just like part of how it is, but it's sick because like, he's not someone to just come up with an idea and then forget about it.
It's almost trying to keep up with his tempo because it's like...
Yeah, for sure.
He seems gifted and it seems
he
like...
calls it a superpower.
Yeah, it's like a superpower. That's so true.
Because, I mean, if you think about that video he did where he shot like loads of London athletes and he filmed it all on his phone and it looks amazing and it did really, really well. And it's like a really good video. He could do that anytime he wants. He's really good with a camera when he wants to be, but other times he just doesn't have that drive. Like, because they are drives, sometimes he'll do something, or I mean, let's say that cinematic video he made on his phone. If he could do that consistently, but to harness that creative cinematic energy and have that consistently would be amazing. But that's just very dependent on whether or not that is the drive at the time. Parkour and movement, for the most part, is almost like the constant, and it's almost the sort of foundation. And then things will come off from that, where with regards to where his drives want to go. But I mean, the clip he just showed me, he just sent a clip in the WhatsApp just now of him training at IMAX.
What?
and then he just sent this. But it's like
Ridiculous.
it's
That's like-
constant like that.
People look up to Joe as this innovator. He's an athlete that so many people are just so excited to watch. And from this feeling of being valued, this gave Joe this sense of purpose and a fulfillment from being himself. Joe didn't just try and do the big jumps that everyone else was doing. He got recognition because he was himself. Undeniably himself. That same self that at some points in his life felt useless, who felt like they would never fit in or amount to anything. And I honestly just find that level of individuality just beautiful. Like, it might sound lame, but I truly think inside of every single person is a unique perspective. Out of all the billions of people that are on this planet, we all just have something unique about us. And to me, Joe is someone who inspires me to delve deeper into what makes me unique. Follow my passions, follow my interests. Not to just do what everyone else is doing or do the thing that is cool. I really hope that Joe's story can inspire you to be yourself, to find what makes you you, and to follow your interests with the deepest passion you possibly can. Make sure you go and follow Joe on Instagram. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. The Parkour Bucket List is out now. You can massively help me out by picking one of them up, or donating to me on Patreon, or using the sponsor link below. Peace.